It is Marshall Katz.
Oh.
Mayor of Leslieville.org. That's not who you send it to. So you want to send it to Mayor of Leslieville's. Just put it up here. Just have it here. Yeah, that one. That one. Scroll down.
It looks like we are. Right, so we are.
Forward.
Peter.
Forward.
Peter. We are on.
Okay.
At least I'm pretty sure. We have a whole new system here.
Should I look at my phone and see if I see myself?
It's funny because that's exactly what I'm about to do. I'm going to verify that we are actually on. That is probably the notification right there.
Yeah, that'll work.
Okay.
Just
And we are. We're live. Yay.
Right. I will attend.
Okay.
Please see below. Just say please see below. And then hit send. No problem. So I had another fun one today.
Did you?
Yes.
Did you break your other foot?
No. I should have. If I was in the NetFest offices today, I would have.
Okay.
I would have broken it right up somebody's.
Yes. All right, we're on.
Put the mics on.
It's all good. You know, just a little familiarity. New system, it's all good. I'm sorry.
I know what happened the last thing. You actually asked me to do something that I didn't do.
Okay. Crazy.
Are people really that stupid?
Yes, they are. They are. Just so you know. Yes. Most certainly.
That's your phone. I don't know what that is.
Just when you think they can't read, you take them. Mics are hot, too.
Yeah. Alright. Let me tell you.
Scavenged 2 pounds.
I'm good, thank you.
He is recovering nicely. Thank you very much for asking.
Yeah. We just do it, so that's good.
I was just explaining that I had an aneurysm trying to get my 2 kids to take out the garbage because he's not supposed to be cut morning.
Don't have any.
It's
Takes time.
That's
Yeah.
their job, isn't it? Isn't
It should be their job. You know, I have 2 girls, and they're spoiled little brats, I have to say. And luckily, they're my heart, but...
We feel your pain. Wait a second. We feel your pain.
My girlfriend Jackie has 3 sons, and she orders these kids around like the drill sergeant. She brings them to my house and puts them to work. She's like, Jack, go outside and do all of Aunt Amy's recycling. You know, Seamus, go around and pick up everything off the lawn and bring it out to the curb. I mean, she's ordering them around. They do it, you know, go out and help Aunt Amy with the groceries. You know, I'm like, this is good. Hello,
Good.
Good, and you?
Hello, hello. We are live. We have already started. Just so you know. We're live. Mics are hot. Okay, awesome. Oh, I don't think I'm.
Would you like to do
Speaking of, how's your father?
Pardon?
How's your father?
He's stubborn.
He's not a vacation.
No, it's not her face.
Okay.
I have to say, my husband's being a very good
First of all, I don't know any guy who's actually a good patient. So.
But he knows that it's got to get done. So.
Is he home?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the most important.
Yes. Gotta go back in, get his gallbladder stuff, but he'll get it done.
Mr. Jenslow, the mayor's just indicated he's going to try and move the matter up to the first under discussion.
Oh,
so
great, thank you.
and you can get a little update and then let's start at home.
What was somebody else that got now just
Pardon?
what was somebody else?
While we're in an accommodating mood and it's a small room. Because we want public comment. Brian, did you finish? You got one of these packets? No, no. And you have one of these packets, right, package? Yes, that's right. Pete, you have this?
Yes.
And the medallion?
She's there.
It might be coming down, or it might not be needed with the new fire light.
You don't have to send me.
It's in the workstation, it's communication for all the everything else. I'll say but so I'll just try to move that part up.
It's Tuesday, it's Monday. That's right.
Okay, all right. No, I mean, basically you got the feedback from the people that the majority of the homeowners that responded back to the survey. What are the results of that? Basically, we can stay with them like up. All right. Okay. Howard Jones, good to see you.
Ralph, are you... Ralph? What? Just want to know whether you were good. Yeah, and do you have the report on?
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Stop it.
guys. Come on. Hey.
Put that on when you're ready.
And she was
You ready?
No, move on.
Alright, good evening everyone. Welcome to the Village of Airmont Board of Trustees Workshop, January 21st, 2020 at 7 p.m. I'd like to call it to order. That's okay. After Kevin gets the keypads going, everybody please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Whatever 16.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alright, so first up we have the public hearing on community development block grant, the CDBG. Can I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make the motion.
I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion?
All in favor, Mayor?
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Okay. Discussion? Anyone wishing to speak? Okay. Motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make the motion.
A second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to
No.
Okay. Alright, so next we have the quarterly reports by the building inspector, fire inspector, and code enforcers.
Building inspector goes first then.
Just the way it was listed on the paperwork.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we actually reviewed it as a year-end report from the entire of last year. This is just my statistics, and they're based from 1/1/19 to 12/31/19. We did 331 permits. Resident stated permit values $9,065,089.22. Permit fees $171,128.25. We did 32 new commercial tenant applications, 5 commercial new builds, 55 major residential renovations, and 53 tree permits. I covered 565 inspections, and the inspection number slightly skewed because I was part-time for 1 quarter. So we could have added another 96 inspections had we been here full-time. I attended 27 meetings, missed 1 for 72 different clients. Also issued 11 complaints and 2 violations, and completed 42 credits of training for last year. You have any questions?
I do.
Yes, you're welcome.
If you want me to go through you, that's not a problem.
Well, you did go through me, and you can.
Okay. So, on your 5th bullet point, the complaints violations, you list complaints issued 11, violations issued 2.
Not all complaints turn into a violation.
I understand, but get that point. I'm just more explanation around this because I just don't understand what the number means. I don't know what that sounds like.
A complaint is when we receive either visually identify a complaint and put it in the system as a complaint, and they're given an order of remedy for 30 days to rectify the situation.
Okay.
If the situation is not rectified, it goes to a violation. In most cases, the situation is rectified. Some of them go directly to a violation. If it's an egregious life violation or a fire safety issue, it goes straight to a violation instead of waiting to go to an order of remedy.
And we haven't had any of those, or are those included in the 2?
I am not the code officer, so
okay.
that is why I listed them. But that's why the number is extremely low, because we have 2 other code officers.
got
I
it.
shouldn't be writing violations or complaints, but I have.
Okay,
All right.
that's what I was looking for. Okay, perfect, thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions? If not, I do.
Okay.
You said that we had lost 96,
Approximately.
approximately due to last year and everything,
Right.
of what's going on. Are we still, so where does that put us behind on permits, or am I missing?
They're not lost, it's just ones that we couldn't do, and it affects scheduling. We lost an entire day of full inspections.
Okay.
So that adds up to about between 6 and 9 inspections a week for 16 weeks. So those are ones we could have done that now we're staggering over and putting in other slots to try and get those back again. So right now we're booked out, I believe 2 to 3 weeks out for inspection.
Okay, that's sort of where I
So
was trying.
they're just delayed. There's,
Okay.
you know, and that should be a good idea to get that rectified by spring when the building starts picking up again.
Mhm.
Otherwise, we're really going to be in trouble with the back inspections.
And just, so I think you just sort of answered my next question, is there help that you need from the board, which is getting it back up to
Right.
speed?
I would need to get more hours and another day to do inspections. Normally, we do them Tuesdays and Thursdays because those days are fuller days. They're longer days, so we could get between 7 and 9, 6 and 9 inspections. Sometimes we do 11, 13, depending on the size of the inspections. If we can get the extra day back, we can probably catch up again.
Okay. And, the difference that you saw basically over the last 2 years, how is the work evening out,
No.
growing,
It's
or
increasing.
increasing?
We did 280 permits last year. We did 331 this year. The inspections are definitely increasing. We did far less inspections last year. I think it was 4 something. So the workload is definitely increasing. There's a lot of construction going on.
And how much time would you say you spend generally just meeting with the public and answering their questions? How much time between that and court is taken away from you being able to do the inspection?
That's a tough one to estimate.
Okay.
It depends on, like today alone, I probably spent a good hour to 2 hours dealing with people at the counter and
No, I see you all day. That's
So
why I'm
it's-
asking the
I mean,
question.
sometimes when I get back from inspections, there's a line of people waiting for me.
with,
So
with what we're dealing with,
Yeah.
that's what I was just trying to.
yeah, it adds up. Court is usually 2 to 3 hours, once or twice a month. So that's really 6 hours total per month is not really that much of a killer.
But you do
there's-
prepare.
you do.
Yeah, you do
Right.
prepare in advance, and you guys are always pretty prepared.
Right.
And I know you had gone to training last year, you and your team. And how does that assist you?
Assist us.
Help you, or
Well, we're trained on
keep-
on new topics. Like this year, we took lithium battery training and battery disposal for electric cars, battery storage facilities, things like that. Yeah, they are. They are, and we did training on how not to get sued. We did. The training in April is 3 days of full classes, and I did take additional training on other things like stormwater management, flood zones. I did a lot of planning and zoning training, so there was a lot more stuff this year, which is why I got 42 credits rather than the 24 I need for recertification.
Thank you. I know I have most questions, but
That's okay.
anybody else have any questions?
No?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hello.
All right. So my report is not as detailed as Lou's. We'll go through what I have, and I'll tell you real quick what I don't have. All right. So my numbers reflect both what's in the systems as well as, Mr. Mayor, when you started asking me at the beginning of May to put together that spreadsheet for you. So you guys should each have a copy of the complete spreadsheet from the whole 2019. It is sorted by inspection type. So you guys, in your time, if you want, you can go through it. You'll be able to see. But what it breaks down to on the summary sheet that I put on the cover is the following. In your regular annual fire inspection and re-inspections, there was approximately 266. New tenants and re-inspections of savings, there was approximately 28. FD requests and follow-ups related to those was 50. New construction, which includes a new construction inspection, new fire sprinkler system or modified sprinkler system and all that kinds of jazz. New fire alarm inspections and stuff like that, which it will include usually, like on a sprinkler, it's a rough plumb, then you got to go back and actually do the witness test for that. For the fire alarm, you got to walk through where they're going to put all the stuff, and then when they put it in, we actually have to test a whole lot of the devices and stuff like that. There's 31 of those. I put down 13 miscellaneous. Some of those miscellaneous will include
meet somebody at a site. For example, Walmart. We've been trying to solve a lot of issues at Walmart. Their attorney came up from across the river to meet. He asked me to meet him at the site. Met him at the site. Spent a bunch of time with him there. Spent a bunch of time with him here in an effort to solve a lot of problems. One of the things that we've tried to do different versus, for example, when I started, was instead of issuing a ton of violations, which tends to upset a lot of people, if we can solve the problems by meeting with people, showing them the problems, explaining to them how to deal with it, that kinds of stuff. What's not on the report, which, for example, that Lou had, I didn't put in all the training that we did, my time and how many meetings I went to, whether it be with the board of the ZBA, other meetings, for example, when I meet with public persons, when I meet with the association. So I go to certain meetings as a fire inspector. I attend the Rampo Chiefs meeting, which is bi-monthly. I attend the County Utilities meeting, which is bi-monthly. I attend the inspectors have a meeting. All those things directly relate to my job. For example, when I attend the County Utilities meeting, we meet with the what I call the blue jeans heads. So it would be your road supervisors on our gas, on our electric, Suez, Verizon. It allows me to not only deal with them on plans and other things, but what's coming down the pike, as well as the context we create allows us to solve a problem real quick. So like Ralph, you and I both know certain heads of O&R Electric, and we have a problem. If you call O&R, it could be a couple hours. We make a phone call, we get somebody here in 15 minutes. Things of that nature, all these things kind of help. One of the big ones, for example, that I had this year, early in the year, was I had Suez come in and meet with us when we were talking about Hillside, putting in a water main, what would be involved in all that. Turns out that's happening. It's going to happen through Ramapo, through a project that's there, but it's going to come here. I spoke with the Suez guy at the last meeting that we had last week, as a matter of fact. And yes, we're going to have to get together and discuss that, because they're going to put a water main on there. We're going to have to see how it's going to affect everything in the village. Because we have absolutely no hydrants. Hillside Avenue, going back both to the Jersey line the other way, as well as towards Saddle River and then out towards Pine Brook. We're going to have to see how all that's going to work. I didn't put in all the plan reviews and comment letters that get done, which Amy can tell you those kinds of things are never small. They never take a little bit of time. All the communications, when I deal with folk, I do a lot on email with people to help solve issues. They have questions and stuff like that. And the last one that takes a decent amount of time, but to stay on top with, is the fire alarms. So there is all the commercial fire alarms in the county get monitored directly by 44 Control. The access to that monitoring is by them, by the alarm vendor, and by the fire inspector. I actually get emails throughout the day, all day long, 24/7, about issues with fire alarms. So let's say we have the fire alarm here. Let's say it doesn't do the daily timer test that's required. I get an email about it. Stuff like that. I can look at alarms. I can look at the app and see how many alarms right now in the village are offline or on test. That helps, because some of those things will tell us, hey, why is the alarm at that building offline for 8 hours? Do we have a permit open for that? Is there something going on? Or it can be the other way. I can see all of a sudden a whole bunch of alarms didn't communicate. Now I reach out to the monitoring company, not the vendor that the county has, and say, are we having a problem? All these fire alarms aren't connecting. That's a problem. If there's a fire, we're not gonna know about it. So there's a lot of that goes on. We actually have a meeting coming up with the fire inspectors down at the fire training center that's going to discuss a lot of that, try to make a lot of that stuff easier. It can be very time consuming. I try not to spend too much time on it on a daily basis, but on a weekly basis, I do have to look through those, see what's going on. Locations, I catch sometimes a problem. They get a standard warning letter from me about that, and it usually works. I don't end up having to issue a violation or bring it to court if they're able to solve their issues. Stuff like that. So that's where we're at. Any questions?
Okay, so let me, Brian, do you have questions?
Yeah, do you want?
No.
How many total inspections?
So what I have on the sheet is
No,
three. Go ahead.
What do we have? Are we in the 600 range like we used to do?
I believe we are just under 600. Okay, and that's all properties. There's a certain amount of properties there that, for example, we know that we have a number of properties that don't have proper C of O's and stuff like that. They would be an automatic failure if we walked in the door to do a fire inspection. So those kinds of things, we got, my attitude is, let's solve their problem with a C of O and all that, and then we can go in there and do their annual fire inspections. Otherwise, it's going to create a big problem. Some of those places are in court currently. They're going through the CDRC and the planning process to get into compliance. Because otherwise, what's going to happen? I'm going to go there. They're going to fail. They're going to fail without me even going there because they don't have a C of O. They're not going to be able to resolve the issue for months because they have to come here and go through their planning and all those kinds of things. You understand what I'm saying? So there's a lot of that kinds of stuff that's going on.
The sheet,
Yes.
the one that, the breakdown.
Mm-hmm,
Is
the
that
summary sheet.
The ninth, that's all 19?
That is 2019 only.
Okay.
And that's what's in the system. I will tell the board, I've gotten way better at making sure whatever I do is in the system, but there's still a lot of stuff that I have not put in the system that I have to get a lot better at. I created certain forms for myself to do. I will make sure that all that stuff goes through. For example, all the fire department, every time I go out for the fire department, whether it be that they call me out for a BS or they call me out for a fire, I have a form that I made that I fill out for those, but it's always been on me to put them in the computer. It doesn't work if I have a busy day or if it's at the end of the day before a weekend like when we went recently down the road. That's the kind of stuff that I'm going to try to work that through the clerks to, if they can assist me with getting all that in the system, it'll give you a much truer picture of what's going on, and it's all in the system properly. I do have everything written down. We need to get it in the system.
Right. I think it was June was the last time. Correct me if I'm wrong. About June, the last time we had a report.
Maybe June, I think. Yeah.
About June-ish. And then you said you had done 300-ish inspections. And now we have 388. Spreadsheets. This is your.
The spreadsheet was
Daily
created
activity?
at the, I'm sorry?
Would this be your daily activity?
It would be my daily activity when it comes to inspections and basically stuff that I go out for. It does not include things that I'm in for. For example, I'm usually not putting in there if I spend 4 hours doing plan reviews and stuff like that. It doesn't necessarily put in all the meetings that I have with a landlord or a property owner or stuff like that. It's got some, but not all.
Right. So just like the first page, 5-1.
Because it started. Now keep in mind that
5-1, 2 for this, 2 for
well, just keep in mind the sheet
45
is
and 30 minutes.
currently sorted by, by inspection type. Generally the mayor gets the report from either weekly or bi-weekly. I try to get it to him, and there it's by date. So it's a lot easier to look at that way. Here you're looking at it sorted by column C, which is type of inspection. You understand? And it only starts in May.
Yeah. So, what are you thinking it's going to take to get the required inspection done?
Meaning to do more inspections. What's going to happen is
To do
a
the
lot
required.
of things, there are still a lot of issues that I tend to get either dragged into or come upon that I take upon myself. A great example would be, for example, when I did my annual at Walmart, all of a sudden now I'm dealing with the attorney to try to help solve a lot of their property maintenance issues. Those kinds of things will get passed off to the building inspector will turn around and he'll pick, a code officer or somebody else to handle a lot of stuff. What happens is because I'm the one that deals most with the commercial properties, I develop a relationship with landlords or their representatives. They're like coming to me for help with other things, and I feel bad saying, oh no, I don't do that, but that's what I have to get myself to do. Between that and make sure there's more stuff put in the computer. So that's a lot of what will help. Same thing with, for example, very often the fire department will call me out for something. I'll go out there, see it. If it's something that a code officer can handle, when I get back to the office, I'll hand it to the code officer to follow up instead of me having to go back out and follow up. It is normal for the fire department to generally request a fire inspector because we're seen as the liaison. Look, I'm in the fire department, I'm the captain too. The only time we're calling out a building inspector, usually, the building's falling down or something like that. Otherwise, we generally call the fire inspector. Also because in most municipalities, you don't have a code officer on duty 24/7. Fire inspectors are usually reachable 3 o'clock in the morning. They pick up the radio, they call fire control, they say, give us the fire inspector. They can reach us, paging us, calling us on the phone, calling us at home, and we come out and do what we got to do. We're kind of like the liaisons between the municipality and the fire service. That's how it works.
How often does that happen?
It depends. I can,
It doesn't depend. How often has that happened?
well, for example, from mail, in this year alone, you were looking at it almost 50 times, between call-outs and follow-ups. To a certain extent,
Yeah, I'm sorry for interrupting.
Sure.
But is that normal in most villages for,
So here's what I'm going-
for there to be that many call-outs from the
So
fire
here-
department?
so
Or
here's-
is that excessive? That's something that the board should
so I will
look into?
tell you both, for example, from my department where I'm the captain, as well as I now co-chair the false alarm committee for the county. There are, in my department, we're very good. We call a lot, my department, because we understand that in Rockland County, due to the nature of the way the fire departments are not an enforcement agency. Fire department comes to your house. You have any issue whatsoever. You don't have a smoke detector till they see something that's, in their opinion, unsafe, or they may even know it's unsafe. They have no authority to enforce anything. They need an enforcement authority to do that. The enforcement authority is the fire inspector, code officer, building inspector. They will tend to call the fire inspector because that's the dude they can reach easily. 3 o'clock in the morning, if you call Clarkstown and say, page me out a code officer to respond, it's not going to happen. The only person that's going to respond at that hour is going to be a fire inspector. A building inspector will come if you have a building falling down or stuff like that. Amy, you've been in municipalities long enough to know this is what happens. Now, here, what I'll say in the county, the departments that call the most often for a fire inspector from whatever municipality is going to be Tallman, Hopecrest, Muncie, South Spring Valley. Most of the departments in Rampo will call the most because they want something taken care of. I can tell you that it has kept Tallman if I may, 1 second. The Tallman Fire Department's false alarm rate in the village of Airmont this year is considerably down. And that is because of my efforts working with them. And I didn't have to write a violation to make any of that happen. Okay? There are departments in other municipalities in this county, their false alarm rate is through the roof. And we hear them on the radio constantly going to the same properties all the time. You never hear them call for an official. That's an issue. We don't have that here. We don't have that here because they call, we come, we get it taken care of, we do our best to make sure they don't have to go back there again. That's why. If you were to ask the Director of Fire and Emergency Services, who I work with and stuff like that, you will hear that he says, yeah, there's definitely, departments should be calling more often because they're not an enforcement authority. For example, fire department rolls up to report a telephone alarm at somebody's house, right? And they say, oh, there was workmen in the building, failure to notify. It's a false alarm. There's nothing the fire department can do about that. They have to call an enforcement officer to handle that. The police won't handle that. That's the fire inspector. He might deem that, hey, we need to call the county consumer protection to come in because it was an unlicensed contractor. Or he may need to get in touch with the building inspector because the guys that were doing work in the building failure to notify didn't have a permit. But ultimately, to write the false alarm to make sure that it doesn't happen again, yeah, that's going to call within the fire inspector and the municipality to handle that. That's the way, the nature of how the business rolls, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I'm getting exactly what you're saying.
Okay.
My question is your calls
Mm-hmm.
on Airmont time
Mhm.
for Airmont.
Say that again?
Are they for Airmont or are you going to
When I go out as a fire inspector,
Yeah.
it's whenever they call me. I mean, I can tell you yesterday morning, was it yesterday or Sunday morning? They called me at 4 o'clock in the morning. I was able to handle it on the phone.
I'm sorry, who?
Tallman Fire Department went out for an alarm, 4 o'clock in the morning.
That's Airmont business.
That's Airmont business. They call, I'm listening to them. They call control, can you have the fire inspector contact me? No problem. Pick up the phone 4 o'clock in the morning and call the fire chief. I didn't end up having to go based on talking to the fire chief. It wasn't something that required my response to the scene at 4 o'clock in the morning. Fine. I was able to solve the problem on the phone, followed up later in the day via telephone and messaging with the alarm company. One day this week I'll go visit the site, but I didn't have to come out and put in for 3 hours or whatever it is off time. It also puts the fire departments at ease knowing they can pick up a phone and call. They'll get somebody they can talk to solve the problem.
Now, when you're saying fire departments,
Mm-hmm. We have 2 departments that cover the village of Airmont.
copy that. So it's just the 2. So what I'm
Yes.
saying is, getting at is you're not going to other jurisdictions.
If I go to other jurisdictions, I'm going as a firefighter, not as the fire inspector.
Okay. firefighter.
I am an active volunteer fireman. If we get a structure fire in my district, or my department gets called to a structure fire somewhere else,
Absolutely.
we will generally respond. That's what we have to do. The county has no
Structure
paid
fire.
firemen.
Absolutely. Structure fire, absolutely.
Something that sounds close to it, that's life and danger. I generally do not leave the village during the day for what one might call the automatic alarm or the telephone alarm.
Mm-hmm.
You give me a confirmed odor of gas in an occupied school building during the day,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going. You know, you know, stuff that sounds real. I generally don't leave for car fires. I generally won't leave even for an extrication in my department's area on the Palisades Parkway. I'm never going to get there in enough time to make it effective. If it's on my end of my fire district, which is not too far from Airmont, certain parts, yeah, I'll go. Because, hey, the county survives on volunteer firemen. There's no way around it. Okay? We have to balance what we go to and what we don't go to. I've gotten better at making sure Ralph knows where I am, including this morning. My department got hammered this morning, started at 7:30 in the morning. All of them were 911 calls. So, we try to watch what we do.
Okay, on this separate. Dan?
Yes.
Okay.
Wait, Brian, yes.
I'm going to go back to something that Trustee Downey had asked earlier.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so he had asked how many, the number of inspections that are done
Mm-hmm.
on an annual basis.
Mm-hmm.
And you came up with just under 600, correct?
How many properties?
How many properties?
I believe it's somewhere in the area between 550 or 500 and about 600, stuff like that.
Now, are these all annual inspections?
No.
Okay,
No.
so they would be.
So the Village of Airmont code, as well as the state code, does not require annual inspections in most places. There's a limited scope of where they require them. And that would be generally, I believe, it's houses of public assembly or the big multi-place houses, like, for example, Airmont Gardens, Retreat at Airmont, those kinds of places.
Sure.
We did Retreat at Airmont this year, we did Airmont Gardens this year. We did them both.
And you would do them again next year?
And I will do them again, correct.
Right.
They have to be. Houses of assembly. Again, that's where we have a touchy issue. We have a lot of them that don't have current C of Os. Some of them are in the process of getting them. So let's get that taken care of. You know, because I can walk into some of them, like I said, before I leave the office, they're going to fail. They don't have a C of O, they don't have this, they don't have that.
Right.
They know they don't have it. We know they don't have it. They have to solve their problems. Some of the scope of their issues are out of my ballpark, so to speak.
Okay, so then do you have the breakdown between which properties would be considered annual and which would be considered?
I could create that for you, but it is in the Airmont local code which specific types they are.
Okay, well, all right, the types,
No problem.
that's great.
You want to know how many of them there
How
are?
many
Not a
there
problem.
are? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you have any,
No, that's, something else comes up.
Trustee, did you have any questions?
I do, actually.
Yes,
How come we
sir.
have so many? How come we have so many failures? Like, what's the
Threshold?
underlying primary
So I will
root
tell
cause
of failures. The easy ones would be exit lights not working, things of that nature. People not having CO alarms, or they have CO alarm that's old, it needs to be replaced, stuff like that. I do find a number of electrical problems in a lot of places. And because I'm the guy that generally visits most of these places most often versus the other enforcement officers that we have, I'm generally going to walk in the door, and there are times, and unfortunately it's a lot, we find they've made alterations without permits. The alterations can include from replacing a water heater and things of that nature to major alterations. Or I walk into a space and look at that, it got subdivided, whether it be a business or otherwise. And I can tell you, I will go to a place to do an inspection, I'll go back there, happenstance. The fire department has to go there 3 months later on a fire alarm, no big deal. They call me, I walk in and the place looks totally different. Things change. There is a lot going on. At the same time, the codes keep changing. Okay? When I started in the village in 2016, that is when the state of New York adopted what was known as the International Fire Codes. Brought a whole lot more into place that wasn't there before. One of the most common things I ran into in my first year and a half here when I did inspections was, yeah, but we were told we could do that. I go, you're right, you could until now, when there's now stuff that says you can't. And that will continue to change. You know, for example, in the first year, New York State took a lot of exceptions to the International Fire Code. Every year since, they've taken a lot less exceptions. So there's a lot more that needs to get done.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you have any others? So I have a question.
Sure.
As far as inspections, and it's a follow-up. So, how many inspections would you say have not been done? I know there's some that are done annually, some that are not done annually.
Correct.
But do we have buildings that have not been
I
done
would say
in
there's-
3 years, 4 years, 5 years?
So there's one site that I have not been able to go through yet, the whole site. I was trying to get that done before the end of 2019. I didn't, and it will be at the top of my list for now, and that would be Tall Pines. I've been through some of it. I know there's a lot of new tenants in that space. I've had some interaction with some of them and some of the others that, shall we say, have egregiously been doing things they're not allowed to do. I do deal with the landlord for the property. So that would be one of the big ones. Otherwise, that's probably the only property I have not seen in 2 years or more. Every place else has been seen.
Every place else has been seen within the last 2 years.
Yes. In terms of large sites, there are some individual smaller ones. They can be harder to get hold of somebody. For example, the Tallman Bible Church on 59. I've been chasing him for a number of months to get back in there.
Okay, so how many years would you say it's been since you've been there then?
With Tallman Bible, I was there a year and a half ago.
Okay, so you're saying within the last 2 years you've been through every...
Correct,
every
with the
building?
exception of Tall Pines.
Right.
Yeah, every other place I've been through.
Okay.
Shopping malls, strip malls, stuff like that. I would easily say most of the small individual places I've been through as well.
Okay. Does anybody else have any?
I'm good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening. Okay, my statistics for 2019 consist of
Excuse me. Who are you?
Code official Corey Martin for the Village of Airmont.
Thank you.
2019 statistics. I handled 162 complaints in the IPS system. 113 complaints either handwritten or sent to me via email. 87 violation searches when people sell houses or refinance. 18 rental registry inspections. Obviously, most of those do not get to violations. We could allow them prior to getting to violations, with a total of 409 inspections / violations. Some of those outrageous addresses I teamed up with the health department. 186 Savile Road, 1 Regina, 1 Larissa, 48 South Airmont, and a couple different addresses on Tolman Place around the corner. I covered for the fire inspector on a few occasions. I came to court on 12 different dates with just about 30 hours of court time. I removed 350 to 400 signs from the roadside. Frankie DeVillis, the garbage guy, helped me out. And I attended 31 hours of training, 24 required, so I went just a little bit over. And that's basically the summary of my 2019 report. Any questions?
What's the hardest thing you've dealt with out there
So far,
so far?
there's an address on here that I included. Can I just say it? 186 Saddle River Road. There's about 3,000 cubic yards of illegally dumped material there, and it's still there. That's been doing it for about 2 years now.
What type of material? Dirt?
Everything you can imagine.
Okay.
From mulch.
What do we think about going with DEC on that?
That is actually, I spoke to Lou, and that's probably the next step.
Okay.
If I can just interject, they are in court, we're an MS4 municipality, so we'd like to try and get that cleaned up before the DEC gets involved in that, because they're going to fine us in addition. So,
Well, that's is that its website?
It's a stormwater retention basin. Yes, it is.
So it's its website, and it's being inspected by. So it's being inspected by someone.
yeah,
So someone.
Ian from Brooker.
Brooker, I'm sorry. So it's being. Oh, I'm thinking maybe it might be. All right, so then that should be the SWIP should be up. Technically, should be up to date. I understand. The SWIP should technically. The SWIP should technically be up to date and handled.
So to finish your question, you asked the hardest part was the loss of hours.
I'm going to flat out say that. I actually missed an inspection the other day because I was loaded up. One of my days was only 3 hours. For 3 hours, I had to do about 7 inspections in that 3 hours, and it kind of just overwhelmed me, and I forgot a poor guy. So
That's what I was going to ask, is how the hours are affecting it.
some days are, I'm just getting by, but some days it's just too much thrown at me at once, especially with scheduling. I'm out for a few days, and then I come back. I have numerous complaints to handle, and then on top of the numerous violation searches, there's a lot of people selling in Airmont, so that's also taken a big effect the past couple months.
Does anybody else have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
I do have some statistics for Doug as well.
Okay. I saw Doug earlier.
Yeah, he's Doug, so.
He's out there doing his job.
Doug did 13 rental registry inspections. 11 violations are in the system. He's catching up on violations. He doesn't, because he's here only at nights and weekends, it's hard for him to get stuff in the system. He usually does it through paperwork and negotiation with residents rather than put them in the system. He also wrote out over 100 traffic tickets since the beginning of the year. And you got to remember that for 6 months of the year we didn't have ticket books. So we now have a good supply of ticket books. He wrote out 8 tickets in one day. So he's we're catching up.
Keep him out of my neighborhood.
I'll try. That's it.
It was a joke for anybody.
Keeping it light.
Well, we're kind of border on the same neighborhood, so.
Mayor, can I say something?
Yes.
How many rental registrations do we have that are not being inspected?
Right now we got you did what? How many? 18, and he did 13.
31.
We have about 26 left to complete for the end from last year, and then they're going to start on 2019, which is about 65 more. But last year we only got the rental registry list in October, so they only had a month and a half, 2 months to get it working on it. They each had 33 to do, I think. So,
How many? Where do you get that list from?
it's from the rental registry database. There's inspections that have to be done every 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the 2018 inspections, which had to be completed by the end of 2019.
And who keeps that database?
Marathon.
Mayor, being I'm talking, could I talk to the next guy on this right of him? Or no? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Slomo,
Yes, sir.
600 businesses we have in the village. Have you touched, in the last 16 to present, each one of them since you've been here?
Since 2016?
Yes.
As I said, the only place in the last year and a half, 2 years that I have not walked in was I have not gone through the entire tall pines. Most of the other places I've been through, if not all there, for example, strip malls and stuff like that, through most of them. Are you going to find a few that I haven't? Yes, you will. No, won't argue that.
So you're saying to me, out of the 500, I'll use a 500 number, the last time you came here in June was 300, and there was 200 left. Out of the 200 of the 300 you said you did, have you done them in the last July, August, September, October, November, 6 months?
I think I made it clear that I did not get to all the properties this year.
Okay. But you had touched base with them in the last 2 years, you're saying?
The only place that's...
I'm sorry, there's... Okay.
Explain to the trustee. I'm overseeing the office for what's going in and out with Mary Beth, Don, and myself, Joyce, and the clerk. I need to know what's actually happened during a conversation. It's not knowing what he should do and shouldn't do. Tell Trustee Blunny. It's it's information that I can bring back to the board and give if somebody emails me for information, as I heard who's doing the rental.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask a question. Why doesn't Mr. Bracco put that in the agenda for us, or separately instead of bringing it up here to us?
Why is she interrupting me?
It's on the agenda.
Well, okay. I mean, it's definitely on the agenda as to what, and the questions
The
and
questions he's
Right.
asking.
but,
The only question that I have, so as you say, as the clerk, as the village clerk, you're gonna sit there and tell me that you oversee all of this and what they do and everything else like that. So then my question is this is information you should already have coming into this meeting. This meeting is for the trustees to actually ask their questions of these people. Thank you.
but,
I would, if I may, not to.
so I mean, just to be fair as to what's being stated, yes, these questions are being asked, and these questions have been asked, and some of them we've been going about trying to get answers for a while. So I think we're all just trying to get it that we'll get, I think we really need to come up with a way that it's all said in the same way, in the same verbiage, so we have a clear understanding, whether it's 300 inspections were done, or was it 300 inspections were done with re-inspections that were done, or are we on track to do the 500 inspections, which are the ones that are do inspections versus inspections completely as a total quantity, and we want to find out for the safety of the residents and the buildings, and all large, small, or indifferent, that we are getting everything done.
So again,
along
part of
with-
that is answered when I give you guys, when I submit for you throughout, the log and stuff like that, so you guys can see what's going on.
Right, but I sort of asked at one point, I think I said it to you, I would like just a checklist of the 600, and just a check, done, not done, inspected, needs re-inspection. Again, it's just, but it would just update. If it's 16 pages, it would be a 16-page report, and I could just look at it and go, okay, here we have 200 of the 500 done. In a simple check mark type response.
Understood.
I understand the page that you give me, but it's not necessary. Without me having somebody.
You don't have what to compare it to.
Right, I have nothing to
Understood.
compare it to, so it sort of becomes a form that says, yes, you are doing inspections, which I am glad to see and happy that we are moving forward in that. But it's not necessarily giving me the answer, or this board, the answer that we're all looking for.
I agree.
From it.
Understood.
And that I think is the best way to put it. If you seem to do well with Excel. I think if you listed the 500 or 600 and you gave it to us done, not done, last time, even the last time it was done. Because I'm sure that's how you go out and go through and go to re-inspect.
Yep.
That you would look at it through a point of, okay, I have not been to this building in a point, and I think if you're looking at that, it has to be someplace, but this board has not seen it since I've been tenured here, and I don't know whether or not previously, prior to that, whether
Not in that format.
I will say this. I've seen a list of all the businesses that we have in the system. Unfortunately, a lot of the data in the system is not accurate. Some of that is because, for example, the primary area where we get our data from would be the tax rolls from the county when they send us in the dump.
Then I need what I need from you, what you think is accurate, because you're the one who went there. If you can't tell me when you went there, then I don't know who else can.
Understood.
Because you've been fire inspector now for how many years?
A little over 3.
So for the last 3 years, you should tell me what buildings have been inspected, not been inspected, and
Understood.
and their condition.
Well, like I said,
Would that be
Yes.
responsible?
yes.
Okay.
Very good.
I think that's what
I
this
think
board,
that's what
I think that's what this board is asking.
Understood.
That's what the clerk is asking, and that's what we would.
And I believe, as I stated,
Would like to know.
I'll get that for you.
Okay.
No problem.
And again, just
You're welcome.
just to reiterate that, again, we did in June. You said you did around 300, so it's a little throws. It's got
Well,
it
that
does
does
throw one off because
But it also includes re-inspections. So if you went back to the same buildings twice because none of them passed, and I see a lot of them don't pass.
Yes.
The other part is going to be the process of why there's so many. I've worked in businesses, and I know if it didn't pass, the person was back in 30 days, and it darn well better if passed in 30 days. In 60 days, there was a huge fine. Well, they were being written up. Let me just say that. I wouldn't say a huge fine. I would just say they were being written up, and compliance was forthcoming.
Understood. I can assure you that anything that I found that we would deem imminent life safety was properly addressed rather quickly. So, for example, if I went to a facility and there were issues with a sprinkler system or a fire protection system, those kinds of things got taken care of, and I made sure to that. So you wouldn't find that in a problem.
Right. But I think that's where we're all falling back into a numbers that we just don't understand the numbers.
Understood.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions?
None. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming this evening. Thank you for all that you've been doing, especially how hard you've been working, under the circumstances. Right. Thank you. You're free to go,
Thank you.
unless you'd like to stay in the tent.
Get well, it's good.
Have a good night.
Good night.
I'm right. You're welcome.
Maybe I should have left the building inspector. Okay, so number five was the building inspector request for the return of the tree removal permit in the form of $50. Will somebody move the motion?
I'll make the motion.
Somebody second it?
I'll second it.
Okay. Discussion?
No.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Alright. Under discussions, we have a couple of visitors here they spoke to earlier. So with that being the case, we're going to move the floating zone up to the top for discussion. And I know Trustee Peter and Kevin both attended a floating zone meeting, as well as myself recently. So just throw that open for discussion. I'll bring up that I've invited Adriana to come and speak at the next workshop.
Oh, good.
So
Just the thing.
it's not firmed and confirmed yet, but that was spoken that to update us. Throw it up under
Mr. Warbrick,
Yes, sir.
I'll let you start.
Oh, you're gonna let me start.
Absolutely.
All right. So we met. What was it, a week ago?
Yes.
Time flies. To discuss the current floating zone and where we're at. Having been involved in it, a lot really hasn't changed. We basically just went over some of the basic concepts of the floating zone, how we were going to look at the floating zone moving forward. The floating zone can be applied simply by the board here to any of the village center properties. That's pretty much how we look at it. Village center runs down Route 59 from the old empty shopping center down to the Walmart area. The other side of the road is neighborhood shopping, as most people know. Nothing has really happened with it at this time. There's been hints and things, maybe we could do this, maybe we could do that. Nothing has been formalized, nothing's really been presented to date. So that's about where we're at, unfortunately. Peter?
Well, just to interject, there has been,
There's
I've met with owners on both sides of Route 59 that they would like to do something, but it's still a work in progress.
It's definitely a work in progress, yes, especially for the shopping center. Mr. Jensel has been here umpteen times, giving us 1,000 suggestions, very involved, very knowledgeable. He ends up on the wrong side of the road, which is why he's here a lot, because he's trying to rectify that, get it to change it, however you want to look at it. So that's pretty much where we're at. Peter?
I'm gonna just pretty much reiterate what Kevin just said. As I understand it, we first addressed the floating zone again because we had asked, Nelson Pope to come back in and give us a refresher in what the floating zone was and everything else like that. And I believe at the time, Mr. Jenislav was representing his client and had asked us to readdress some of the issues. And we had agreed that we would sit and talk, or that you would submit it.
I think the way we left it in September,
Yeah.
when this was last up for formal discussion, was that it was put aside because the two principally affected property owners, the former Green Union and my client, both had issues with it, and that a dialogue was going to ensue. And as far as I can tell, not much has happened since then, so we just want to make sure we're part of a discussion.
Other than until we met, and that was the impetus of the meeting that we had, I guess we can have.
Yeah, it was like a week and a half ago.
And to reiterate and to address some of the issues with both Adriana and the other person whose name I cannot remember to save my life at this point, and to discuss what our goal was at the end of the thing and whether or not we were still in the same place as we were in the beginning. And that's where we left it. And then Adriana, because you couldn't attend the meeting.
Three people.
Right. Well, you couldn't attend the meeting.
Yes.
You met with Adriana today.
Correct.
Good.
And you had a conversation with her and her partner.
Right. Which is
For a coworker.
Follow up to yours, and Dan Krausauer also attended.
Correct.
Who was also at your meeting, so he was good at, that we're all on the same page to move forward and, listen and see what we can do to develop what we can develop, but, and how it can be developed, I guess, which is within the planning and what the village can do to help, or this board can do to help, in that respect.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask you for just a second?
Sure.
I ran into Mr. Jenslow in the parking lot, and we had a further discussion here. And he had noted that the former Grand Union, or the owners of the former Grand Union Shopping Center had a chance to submit some additional comments. He had not yet been invited to do so, and I think before the meeting, Trustee Warbrick and I invited Mr. Jenislav, please go ahead and submit any comments that he had to the current.
Absolutely.
To the current zoning.
Have there been any changes to it since it was last formally? I mean, the version I have at this point is probably
I'm going to say
6 or
that
8
there has
months
been.
old.
I'm going to
Change?
tell you that there has been no material changes to it, as I can tell right now, and that's what part of this conversation is about.
Right.
And hopefully, the last conversation about that, so that we can move forward, will be at the February meeting. So if you do have anything that you want to,
I just want to make sure I'm commenting on the right version for starters.
I'll make sure Dan sends you the latest.
Okay, that would be great. We'd very much appreciate the opportunity
Sure.
to comment, perhaps to meet with the committee, if the committee would entertain such a meeting, both on the floating zone as well as those involved in the master plan update probably recall that there was some recommendations about updating the permitted uses in the NS district, modernizing some of the definitions.
Yep.
And at the time, we had discussed with the committee a number of ideas that we had in that regard, so we would appreciate the opportunity to resume those discussions as well.
fair enough.
Super.
So we then will await your comments. I guess you'll submit them to,
That's a good question. To whom should I submit them?
do you want, I guess, to submit them to, can you submit them? Can you submit them to Adriana?
Yeah, that's
Directly?
Robert said.
Okay.
Submit
Will
them
she
to-
then circulate them?
And then
Yes.
just-
If you could also CC the clerk, so that he could, work.
Let me explain. That's where everything starts, right here.
Right.
People may not know that, but it starts here. Then Adriana's employee, we give it to her, and now give it to the board as well.
Right.
That's the way normal is.
Right, well, I was gonna say.
You can submit it to me, Rob the village clerk,
Sure.
and I'll give the board it and the Adriana as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's probably best, so this way we all have a copy or can get our hands on it, that we've all seen it or can look at it or put our input into it, or some point.
Just texted Dan to send you the most latest.
Okay, great. Thank you. And once I submit comments, do you envision having a meeting with my client and I to discuss some of our ideas? I wasn't sure if there was a meeting happening with the Grand Union folks or what your next steps were going to be. Maybe you're not sure what your next steps are going to be either.
We're working on our next steps.
We're working on it as well, so.
During the master plan committee, I know that there were opportunities to come in and have a discussion, have a dialogue, present some ideas, and if there's an opportunity to do that in this context, we would certainly welcome that opportunity.
If it's possible, if we could do it, if there was a way to schedule it before the next board meeting, meaning before the board meeting.
Right, maybe schedule 6
o'clock or 5:30, or something like that, but that would probably work best.
Yeah, probably, and I'd come with everything that you just said. Bring it all,
We can do that.
because,
We just need to work out a date.
yeah,
We'll have everybody on the right, we'll have everybody in the same place. So the-
Call a special workshop for that.
Yeah.
purpose.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Okay. Yeah, just send Ralph all sorts, all the,
If you have old stuff that you submitted before and the new stuff, I'd like to see both so I can put it together and give it to the board and there and around.
Yeah.
We'll go
Okay,
forward on
that'll be
later.
fine.
Thank you.
and John definitely has it all.
Thank you.
Any other further comment on the loading zone?
No, not from me.
All right. So then, since we have some residents in the room, I spoke to earlier. They're here on behalf of the light application for Regina Road. We have gotten some surveys back from the constituents, from the. So it involved, Ralph, if I could just have you talk, it was two lights that were, two spots.
2 lights were asked for on Regina Road. We did a survey with them, and we sent out 20, 13 and 12, 25 surveys went out. 10 were yeses, and 11 was yeses, and 2 no's, and 3 no's on that one light. So right now, the board can make a resolution to have those lights installed. You know they cost us money. I only gave you the one proposal of the, I think it was a 10, which I didn't know that had the 2 of them. 11 and 2 you have in your package of the survey that people said to have. What we normally do, so the board understands that, when we made this decision way back when, we only allow 3, I'm almost positive it's 3 lights per year. So if we do these 2 lights now, for the rest of the year, we'll only be able to put 1 more up if somebody asks for them. So that's how the village set the policy up for the lights in the village. And I would advise the board to go with the 2 lights. They were at,
yeah, where are they?
they're set between 75 and 77 Regina Road, and between 69 and 71 Regina Road. The person that submitted, I think, is in the audience tonight. At one point, I have to say, she submitted 7 lights, and I said, doesn't work that way. So she had to pick 2, and we picked these 2.
That's
They picked up.
between 69,
And 71 Regina Road,
okay,
and between 75 and 77 Regina Road.
okay.
And the poll number, just for the record, the one on 75, 77 is 56991-39961 for the record. And the other one between 69 and 71, the light pole, and that's going to be an LED light, so you have to understand that. The other one will be 56975-39985. So, well, I'll ask the board to approve that, and I'll make a resolution to go ahead.
Well, I mean, let's have a discussion on it, because right now we are in the process of having all of our lights in the village looked at. Each and every block, each and every street, we're in phase 1. They've started phase 1. Ralph, how far did you say that they were through phase 1?
They are probably 75%, maybe 80% of phase 1 done. I met with the lady that was doing the survey. About 20% of the lights in the village right now, the 600, Our LEDs are ready. If you remember, we spoke about this a long time ago, that the O&R gave us, I think, I'm gonna guess, 5 or 7 lights a year to change by right. And then there was a cost each year if you want to do additional lights, about $225. So we have been doing this for probably, I want to say at least 7 years, 6, 7 years, when Ronnie was the mayor, and I was 14. So she says about 20% of them are done already. She's found some lights that basically, that are not on the portal that I get from O&R. They're spotlights by the police station, so I got to call up O&R. I didn't do that yet.
So I don't necessarily want to do a resolution to approve this till we know whether or not that would be part of the new lighting package that this board is going to have to vote on or not, for the entire village, whether or not that's going to actually be one of the, this is one to definitely hold on to and review strongly when we get that package back from them, whether or not they're recommending, and if we go ahead with the package. Now, if we don't go ahead with the package, then we could revisit it. We know where the homeowners stand and approve the lights or not approve the lights at that time. But I think it's one of those where just approving it now and doing lights while we're in the process of doing lights seems to be not the best use of taxpayers' money.
Am I correct to say that these lights are free from O&R, correct?
Yes, they're free. Let me interject a moment, Mayor. What you're doing now is not changing the scope of the audit that they're doing from real terms. What's happening is you're putting lights on poles that eventually will be taken over. It's not a difference of increase. Remember, when they presented it to us, they said about taking lights down and putting lights up. The board would do that. When they give us a plan of what they have of the lights, they would determine the voltage that you like, what type of lights, and all that. Yes, but
and where the lights are and where they're recommended and whether poles should be put up and whatnot. That was all supposed to be part and parcel of the package, which I believe we should have within the next month or so. So it's not like we're delaying this a long period of time, but we're just looking at it in a reasonable, responsible manner.
I would think, honestly, it's going to happen in March.
Well, I mean, March.
It's true.
March is not that far. March is not that far away, and it would be, seeing what is being done by the company that was contracted to look at the entire village's lights, to get the whole village lit up. So it's not that we're saying no or yes to it. We want to see what recommendation comes back.
Could I ask the attorney a legal question?
Yes.
If the village made a local law that establishes a resident to do a survey, and the local law says what we could do in the survey, does this board have a right to stop it?
That's a good question. I'd have to read the local law. So basically,
I don't want to be uncomfortable, so okay.
No. I understand, and I understand the concept here that we get a questionnaire, and if more people are in favor of it. I don't know if it's 50-50 or there's got to be 75% in favor. I don't know what it says, so I'd have to look at it. But
it's got to be more than 50%, and if anybody didn't answer, which we checked, would be a no.
They'd be counted as a no.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Just for me, thank you.
Well, then we could have Amy look into that, and then for the next meeting, we could vote if necessary.
Thank you.
On those 2 lights.
Can I just ask one question?
Yes.
Mr. Baca. Are there street lights on this street already?
Yes.
No.
Well, there's not. Okay, so the answer is yes. There's street lights on the road, but there's not street lights on those poles.
It's a very long road.
I have a question. Are we taking any public comments about this?
No.
Let me say, Regina Road goes from Saddle River Road up until South Muncie Road.
Yeah.
And there are lights that go from the beginning of Saddle River Road, goes up, around, and down, and out to South Muncie Road. And that's what the question is. They said it was dark on that block, and the person that asked for these things. My only question legally, that's why it's the attorney, if we have a law that tells somebody to do something and the board has to vote on the results, do we have a right to stop? I'm not saying we do or don't. That's what we got to find out.
We will look into that and then act accordingly with that, or act accordingly have another discussion on whether or not we should move forward or wait till March and we hear from the, we're paying a lighting company to evaluate the entire lights of the village of Airmont, and where it should be and how it should be with the new LED light system. So it's not silly to put lights on anybody's street. Just might make better sense to wait and see what we're doing as an entire village. If we put 2 lights there and then they're recommending you take one down and move it over, I'd like to hear what they have to say first before we put lights up unless we're required to. Hope that answers the questions that most people came out with. Thank you. Alright, so next we had in the package, we had received the CHIPS money. So, just move. So,
Just for the board's reference, I gave this to Eve, so she could evaluate it, because this is 2020 CHIP money.
Right.
We still have 2019.
dear to my heart, essentially, where we left off, the streets that were not finished last year, and
Okay.
I don't think they'll ever be finished, but we can continue. But just that we have the money and we should start to look at it much sooner rather than later once we get through the winter. And question is even proposed last year to go out and evaluate the roads. We did not. So this is the question again. We know we have roads that we left off that we should do, or should we have the roads evaluated now? The question I think last year was we've done it not that long ago.
It was already done. It should be done every 4 years. Is what
Right.
and we were just at that was at the end, and that we should be doing it again this year.
So
we should be evaluating all the roads that have not been paved in the first 4 years. Find out what the
So really, once we get through March, which will take us through the winter, April, we should probably have all the roads.
We need to have, probably. We should probably start doing it in March.
So we should instruct her to do it March, the end of March, April, that she can,
No, the only question that I have is, no, actually I don't have a question. No, it's fine. I just answered it.
so,
Yeah, we can have the
so we have to get like last time we had a cost factor involved with that, so do we have to approve that first? I'm just gonna go.
That's what I was just gonna ask, we need to get a proposal.
Right.
Right.
So that's why I put it on here, was whether we wanna put it, maybe you can get from Eve a proposal of what it would be, so we could put it on a resolution for the next meeting, so she'd be ready to go in March and we'd be ahead of the game.
Yep.
Alright.
So the clerk is going to take care of getting this proposal?
Yes.
What I'm hearing, if I'm correct, is that you want a proposal of all the roads that were not done, evaluate them, not the roads that were done in the last 10 years, is that correct?
When did the, I gotta think, probably not in the last 6, when did they start? You were on the board. When did you start the paving program?
We started it back when Dennis K. was alive, 2012.
Okay, so we've been paving roads every year?
Yep.
Okay, so then, since 2012. Because those will be what's remaining, because it's supposed to be, if I'm not mistaken, it's supposed to be a 17 to 20 year cycle?
15. They should tell us 20, but we realized it was only 15.
Okay, so that's where I'm getting the 29 from that.
Yep.
Okay, so there was a 15-year cycle.
I'm going to ask you, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you, could she give us a list of all the roads that were paved from 12 to 19, and then what roads were not paved, and the evaluation of the ones that are paved to the ones that are paved. So we have 3 different things, if I'm correct, is that okay?
Yes.
1, 2, and 3.
Thank you, Ralph. So next we just had a discussion on a real-term energy contract. I think we pretty much covered that. That's ongoing, where we are in the phase, what's happening with it. And then once we hear back from them, even though, you spoke to them. I don't know, I still am confused because when I started this, they said we would hear phase one and then decide, and
There are two, yeah, I'm sorry.
so I just want to have, as far as a real term contract, if we can look into whether or not we have to go from point A to point B automatically, or whether or not there is a pause there.
There's a pause in the real term contract. Unfortunately, I don't see a pause, or at least an out of the leasing contract. The lease contract presumes that we're going to enter into we have entered into, or the prior administration entered into a lease agreement to pay for the lights. So if we didn't go through the whole real term contract, we would still have a problem with the lease contract. Now, that's something that we could talk about in executive session as far as what our options are. But they did email me a couple of times asking, is there anything else you want to add into this lease agreement? I think they're trying to sort of entice us by, look, we can try and bring down the rate and you could add in some more things. So that, and I haven't answered them yet. So if something comes to mind, I don't know that we're necessarily bound by it. If we tell them we'd like to perhaps include this or that, let me know. But anything else I prefer to discuss in executive session.
Okay. So next we had some good news, Lone versus Rockland County.
You had good news, and I can't even take credit for it. I gotta give it to your former village attorney. But it's a well-deserved win on his part. If you recall, a young lady, I think she's about 28 years old, tripped and fell on sort of an open. It was ostensibly covered, but it wasn't totally covered. And she was jogging down Airmont Road and she fell, and she sued us, Ramapo, the county, Suez, the property owners. I'm probably forgetting someone. But the bottom line is that the village has now been dismissed from that lawsuit, along with, I think, all of the other municipal entities. I haven't spoken with Sean directly, but it leads me to believe that the two private entities, or one or both, that their insurance companies.
And we do hope she's recovering, but we're happy that the village.
Yes, exactly. And quite frankly, we had nothing to do with the condition there. So, yes, the injury was serious.
Okay. Next, we had the E-code analysis, which.
You know what it is? Because I haven't explained it to you.
So, as we were sitting in there trying to go over some of the codes.
Okay, so I just put completely just for thought. I have a proposal that I'll send you by email that I got just earlier. You know that our code is published by E-Code. They're the ones that put it in the books, give us the supplements, they put it online. What you can do, and we took advantage of it in Clarkstown, is that you can ask E-Code to go through your entire code and basically do one of two things. They can go through and they can just simply point out inconsistencies and possible local laws that have since been superseded by some other state law or by some other case law in the state and no longer pass muster. And they can also go one step further and actually suggest the changes to the code. So, for example, I was looking at a couple of code provisions. They were in public session, so I won't point out which ones, but I just know from my prior experience that they're a little bit outdated and should be updated. I also noticed that there's like a lot of inconsistencies in terms of like residential house of worship or a place of assembly, and some things that could be cleaned up. It was a helpful process in Clarkstown. It kind of required everybody to put their mind on it and think about, certain of the laws. So if, with your permission, I'll just send you the proposal.
And to me, the best part, I don't know what, the best part was at the end you get a list of what needs action. by the board to get us into compliance.
Yeah,
And
it's
that to
actually-
me was the best and most helpful part of us going forward with it when, we talk about it more.
So, they'll say, you use these terms seem to be used interchangeably. Which one do you want to use? You circle one, you check it off, and, they go through the whole thing.
Now, which codes are you talking about? All the codes?
The whole code. They can go
All of
through
it,
the
so
whole
they're
code.
talking about the zoning codes, they're talking about the...
Yeah, I mean, we could have them exclude any portion that we want. Like, for example, if you still gotta make zoning code changes to catch up with your comp plan, then we can say, let's leave zoning alone for now. Might not be something you wanna do until you make those changes. I just found it helpful because, as codes evolve over time.
Sure.
And, it's just, one of those things where, I ran into a few things where I thought, this could, use updating, this could use updating, but short of, reading it cover to cover, which, I'm happy to do if you'd like me to do, but they have the ability to go through and search terms, and they're also, quite frankly, up to date on, current, for example, sign laws or peddling and soliciting laws and things like that, and what cases have come down from the Supreme Court to the highest court of New York. I find it to be a useful exercise. And the prices that I'll send you, they divide it up into 3 budget cycles. So I think, he just did a real ballpark estimate, and he can refine it based upon what we asked him to do. But I think it started at like 7,000, but that you could do over a period of 3 budget cycles.
Okay.
You probably just saved a little bit of money out of the legal department line because the loan is not going to go on anymore this year, and we did have some money budget. Just wanted to.
You could have had to do the street plan.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion from anyone on the E-code?
No.
Alright. If I haven't missed anything else above, we're on to approval of the minutes. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So next we have approval of the vouchers. Any do we have a motion to approve?
Hold on.
I
So,
know we'll go to discussion. Do we have a motion? Okay, so if you actually went through an initial, it will get added to there at some point. But on everything that you've been initialing, because I know you've been initialing for years, just as I've been since I started over, it has the line item on the actual point where it built, where you.
I know, I got that one.
Okay.
So
So
I wanted
it
to
will.
hear, so
We have to sort of get a system in place to do that and do it, and rather than just have somebody just handwrite it and put it there, to be able to do it in place. But it's not. It's an item in the works.
Okay, when do we expect it to be addressed?
I am hoping within a month or two, because I heard that it's not just quite as simple as just doing, unless somebody wants to take it when we get it, write it in there, and then we could just copy it after we do it as our initial. So, I mean, it's one word. But it should be done hopefully within a month or two, that we get it done.
Okay. The sooner the better.
Alright, so,
We never moved the approval.
yeah, motion for the approval of the vouchers.
I'll make the motion.
Anyone second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Same.
Alright. Moving on to line 14, did anybody have? Alright, so moving on to old, business, does anybody have any old business? Turn up. Going once, going twice. Alright, new business, I know I did the agenda, but I have two things that came up a little bit afterwards. Just that we have coming up again, I know some members have participated, and just to let everybody know, we'll be getting further information out, but we have the Airmont Community Cleanup Day on Sunday, April 26th. Then we also have a rain date for Sunday, May 3rd, but just that we will be doing that again and participating in the Airmont.
No. Easter's 2 weeks before that.
Okay, okay.
No, late April. Easter's April 12th.
And then just that, the board that I had attended, a meeting with County Executive Ed Day, Sheriff Louis Tappo, and Commissioner of Human Rights Constance Frazier last week. I think we all had different meetings that we went to, and there's another meeting that I will be attending on Wednesday, January 29th, going forward as far as looking at strategies to address hate crimes, racism, anti-Semitism, violence, vandalism in Rockland County. So that's, I'll be attending that meeting on Wednesday the 29th.
Greg and I will be attending the meeting on Thursday night.
Right.
At General Park.
That's what I was saying, if somebody could attend, but I've been juggling schedules. So, thank you both for going. Does anybody else have any other new business?
The only new business I have is your heating is finally fixed today.
Well, let's wait till tomorrow.
Let's see if it works. But the bad news is you're gonna get another bill.
For how much?
I don't know. I agreed because we needed those modules down in the basement. I ordered 5 of them. So Honeywell put them in. Now I can control all the heat from the computer like Lisa did. And so far it's good. Everything's going to be working, and they've been very, very helpful to me getting forward on it. So that's working, and I'm hoping that we have no problem going forward.
Okay.
And a new
Thank
business.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so, motion to go into executive session to discuss personal contracts and litigation. Can I have somebody move that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Somebody second it? Second by Brian. All in favor? Aye.
9:34.
8:30.
8:34. 8:34. Wow.
You shut the mic off?
Mics are off.
I'm hungry.
I gotta shut this off.
I'm hungry. I heard you.